This is the Allon Exchange, brought to you by Allon Planning Partners and the financial advisors of Jay and Brittany Hagee. I'm Spike Spangle. On today's program, we are going to continue our series, backed by popular demand, Retirement Clarity.
Yes,
we got a lot
clear.
of scans. We got a lot of folks taking the quiz. We got several phone calls and so forth. Please help us with our retirement clarity.
I think that's what we all want, right? Just a good understanding of how do we do this money thing.
Right.
You know, that's what people are searching for, and that's where we come in play to help folks get that.
Yeah, and to jump right into it, you know, we've got everything from investments to insurance to estate planning to taxes. Let's start right away with the investments. When we have scattered accounts all over the place, 401ks, our spouse might have accounts, their own investment accounts. We've talked about this before. It's the clutter.
Yeah.
But let's dive into the actual numbers. When you've got that many accounts, don't you also have that many fees, that many different money managers,
absolutely
but
do.
then all that same kind of overlap?
So whether it's individualized for your 401ks and IRAs, or maybe it's you and your spouse and it's a married couple and you have 12 different accounts between the two of you, what you're really looking for besides the unification of it is coordination. You need to make sure that they're coordinated together, that they're working for the same goal, that they're working in the same way. If you have too many of those, to your point, Spike, you could have too many fees that you're paying. You could have too many money managers trying to go after different goals than what you're going after, right? And so you need to make sure that you're unifying your plan. If you do have quite a few accounts between the two of you, it's okay. Let's just take a look at them to make sure that they're working together and they're working for the purpose and the goal that you desire.
Well, we're a sports-loving family, so let's use a sports analogy, right? Let's talk about a football team. You've got all different positions on a team, so everybody has their own individual role. It's the same with your investments and your accounts. You may have multiple accounts, but you don't want anybody playing the same position. You don't want the goalies in soccer fighting one another for the position, or you don't want the kicker going for the kickoff and another one comes up behind him trying to get it before him. That doesn't help the team. So this is part of the concept of coordination. You want the different components. You need the different components. You need the different accounts that work in different ways, but they have to be coordinated.
And we like to unify the allocation models as a household, whether it's individual and you're single or you're a married couple. If you are going after the same plan for the same retirement goals, we like to unify those to make sure that they're coordinated together, working in the same direction.
I listened to one of your radio programs recently, which you host with our good friend Doug. I love hearing it. You guys do a full hour on the radio show. I have a question. I need some clarity, if you don't mind.
Let's go.
You started talking about in-service rollovers, and you were talking about that in coordinating that with accounts, with spouses. What exactly is the in-service rollover? Well,
an in-service rollover means that I still work at the company that I have my 401k with, right? But I may have hit that magic number of 59 and a half. And so 59 and a half, the IRS rules for most company plans. There are some that still do not allow this based on your 401k rules, but a lot of folks have the opportunity to now take the dollars that I have been vested with. That means the dollars that I've invested or that my company has invested and that I have become my 401k dollars, and move those to an IRA, which means you can self-direct those funds. A lot of times people don't realize that these ERISA-based 401k and 403b plans have a lot of limitations to the investment allocation strategy, meaning you may be in like just a target date fund. Now, you know, for the common person who is starting in investing and you may be 25 years old and putting away in your first 401k, a target date fund may be something that you want to look into, right? Because it's going to be okay for the few and far between. But for those who have invested and saved millions maybe of dollars in these 401k accounts, and now they are in a target date fund, that's the only variable that these funds are really looking at is how close are you to that target date, to what your allocation strategy should be. Meaning the closer you are to that target date, they are going to put you in more fixed income and take less equity risk. Well, that may or may not suit the retirement plan that you have. So we want to do what's called an in-service rollover for most of those folks. You hit 59 and a half, to where we can self-direct these IRA dollars, meaning we have a vast array of allocation options available to us that you do not have in that 401k plan. If you are 59 and a half and you're listening and you have a 401k or a 403b or your TSP, you would want to talk with us because you probably have the potential to have a much better and much more diversified allocation strategy using a self-directed IRA, and that's what we help a lot of folks do.
Well, and that's the key too, ensuring that you're when you're in that phase of life, right? You have saved a decent amount of money. You want to ensure that not everything is in a single bucket working in the exact same way, right? That's part of the diversification conversation. Ensuring that you have investments that are working in coordination with one another, but not all moving the same direction at the same time. Now, I know we all want to up and to the right? We would that's ideal. But within our current market and economy, economic cycles that we see and we're experiencing, you need that coordination. And that affords that to you because you're able to roll those funds over and then have more say as to how they're actually invested. Because as Jay said, with an employer-sponsored plan, they serve their purpose and they work for the individuals, but it limits you as to what options you have available. You may have 10 or 15 options with your employer, and with a rollover, when you do that and move those funds to an IRA, you have many more options for how those can be allocated, so they can work for you in different ways as well.
And that's a piece of clarity that most people want to get a hold of, because that could save you thousands of dollars when the market's going down and gain you a lot more money when the market's going up if you're properly diversified.
Well, and it brings protection.
That's right.
It brings protection and safety when you're able to allocate it in a way that's not just how it always was. We talked before, about how we can often make assumptions, and this is one assumption that folks make quite often, is that the way I've invested the rest of my, it's done me great to this point. Shouldn't I just continue that moving forward into my post-working years? That's not always the case. We got to take a look at that. And most of the time, the majority of the time, there are some tweaks that have to be made in that phase. So that's a good time to look at it when you hit that 59.
And this mechanism, the in-service rollover, the in-service doing of this, has been written for you. So this isn't something that your employer is against. You're going to continue working. You can continue to contribute for 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years, however long.
Hold the job.
But maybe you can have a professional manager helping you with the rest of the investment. Maybe even starting things like annuity tools or whatever it might be. But it's that you're going to get more robust service, oftentimes for the same cost.
A lot more robust service. And let me tell you just a few of those examples. One is we're going to be talking to you as fiduciaries about more than just your investment assets. We're going to be talking to you about how to save money on taxes. We're going to be talking to you about an income strategy for those investments. We're going to be talking to you about health care and what you should be doing to plan for health care expenses in retirement. We're going to talk to you about estate planning and make sure that you have a legacy plan put in place. So we're going to do much more than just look at the investment asset bucket of this. We're going to take a comprehensive approach, and that is something that you really can't put a price tag on when it comes to a lot of those offerings.
And for the price tag of absolutely nothing, you can call this phone number and get started on your own retirement readiness review with the team here from Allon Planning Partners. Call that phone number, or you can scan the QR code right over here with your phone and schedule your own time right now. More Retire with Clarity with the Allon Exchange and Allon Planning Partners right after this.
Allon means oak tree, and when we began this firm 7, 8, 9 years ago, something like that, we were searching, trying to determine what do we really want to build this foundation on? How do we want to depict and share this mission that we have with the world? What does this look like?
And so as we were processing through what should be the grounding factor, the name of our company, Allon really stood out. It's actually the Hebrew word for oak tree.
And we knew that the oak tree was going to be the symbol for what we are, how we operate, because those are the kinds of financial plans we want to create.
And so Allon comes from the Psalms, where it talks about the tree that is planted by the water, that has deep roots, that even in times of drought, this tree can sustain life, and it bears fruit in every season.
That really became the foundation and the mantra of our firm. Why we do what we do, who we are, how we operate.
We want to create plans for people with deep roots that even in times of turmoil it hits their life. Maybe it's a death in their family. Maybe it's another financial crisis. Maybe it's COVID, and something that we can't even see coming, but the roots are so deep that they bear fruit in all seasons because we have a plan for every season of life.
Welcome back to the Allon Exchange with Jay and Brittany Hagee of Allon Planning Partners. Continuing with retirement clarity, I've got to ask you, over the last few weeks, whether it was myself, other co-host Brad Johansson, I'm hearing you talk so much about taxes. And I got to say, the clarity about it, I don't understand. Our debt continues to go up. I feel like I'm paying my fair share in taxes. Why, as financial advisors, do you both focus so much on tax planning? What can we do about taxes?
Because taxes are one of the biggest expenses you're going to have in retirement. And I want you to go ahead and put up exchangemytaxbill.com, because this is a quiz that we designed so that you could put in just a few pieces of information and see what is my tax liability on these tax deferred accounts right now. And so if you can get an idea and wrap your head around the clarity of, man, as the tax law sets right now, I owe 30% of this amount of money in taxes, whatever that is for you. That is under today's tax law. What's to stop Congress from passing a new tax law 3-4 years from now that says you've got to pay double that amount? Because our deficits do continue to go up. And the only way that they can collect dollars from us is through our taxes. And so we have to take advantage of these low tax years right now, because we are in a very low tax bracket decade we've almost been in, and since 2017. And so we have to take advantage of the low taxes going forward now. Go to exchangemytaxbill.com, take a few minutes, click that QR code, and make sure that you can see what's my liability so that we can put a plan together for you that says, how do we save you from having to owe the IRS this much money on your tax deferred dollars?
Yeah, and one of the reasons we spend so much time talking about this, Jay, right, is because we're looking at a 401k dollars. We know that retirees' number one concern is running out of money across the board. And if we're looking at what individuals have saved, spent their lifetime saving, and they have a 401k, the reality is not all of those dollars belong to you because so much of those will go in taxes. So when you're looking at building a plan, how am I going to create some income for my future? How am I going to take distributions from my accounts? How am I going to live and pay for health care and all of these things coming up? You want to make sure you're beginning with the right total. You don't want to begin with what's really in your 401k or your IRA, because it's not all yours. You got to take the taxes off the top first. So you got to begin with accurate totals at the starting line. That's kind of what this Exchange My Tax Bill tool does. It gives you your taxable liability right now, so that we can see where we are and begin to really craft a strategy to minimize your taxes. Like you said, Jay, when you get to that point where you're creating income, being able to pull some from tax-free streams so that you're not taking all taxable income in that.
Well,
that
you're
stage
either
of life.
going to tax plan or you're going to tax pay. We say that all the time.
Right.
And all of us are going to pay something in taxes, right? But why not minimize that? And so long-term tax planning is going to make sure that you keep more of your hard-earned money in your pocket. That's what we're trying to accomplish with exchangemytaxbill.com, is to make sure that we understand our tax liability as it sits today, and how can we minimize that? What strategies are available to us?
And that you can have more control. You really can. Folks think, well, I don't have any control over what's going on with my taxes. You do. You have control as to when you pay those taxes. You might not be able to determine the tax brackets or what all that look like, but you can determine, you can choose when you want to pay those taxes. And there is a strategy you can implement where over time, you kind of spread that liability out over time to minimize your overall tax bill, so that you're not paying a big, huge chunk in retirement and taking from what your income could be. But if you're dribbling it in a little bit over time and able to make some conversions and put some money in tax-free buckets, man, those will benefit you huge in the future, because those don't only stay tax-free, but they grow tax-free. So anything earned in those types of accounts are distributed tax-free. I mean, I don't know about you, but I want something tax-free.
Yes.
Like everything is taxed.
Absolutely.
Our gas, our food, everything we purchase, what we make, our income, our property, we have to pay just to live in a house. All of these things are taxed. If we can get something tax-free, Sign me up.
Yeah.
Because right now it's just oxygen. It's the only thing I know that's tax-free. And so they'll figure out how to hook up air monitors to us eventually. But yeah, we want tax-free buckets. And one way to do that is through Roth conversions. And we've talked about this a lot on our radio show and even here in TV, is that you want to make sure that you take advantage of low tax brackets now by taking some of those tax-deferred dollars, your IRAs, your 401ks, and moving them into what Brittany has talked about, these tax-free buckets, these Roth buckets. So we want to do that. Brittany said it well. We spread it over multiple years in a laddering strategy so that you keep your tax bracket low now, but then you're able to get all the growth that you're putting into these Roth buckets year over year over year, tax-free forever. And so we want to make that deal to where we are able to put some of our tax-deferred dollars into tax-free dollars.
And once again, can we kind of define for our viewers out there with clarity, what exactly is the Roth account? Because we jumped all the way to Roth conversion.
Yes.
So I know that in 1997, Senator Roth actually introduced this idea of a Roth. The concept being what we're paying the taxes in that year.
It's really the unsung hero of investment tools. And really it has to do with tax status. Okay, so it's IRAs are tax deferred. Okay, so you're not paying taxes now, right? You're deferring those taxes. But with a Roth, you're paying the taxes up front. So current year, you're paying the taxes on the dollars now, and you're putting them into that Roth account, and they get to grow tax-free over time. And again, not just what you put in is tax-free later, but the growth over time as well becomes tax-free. That's where you really win with a Roth. When you start early, that's why we have young kids, and we're doing that with them. Beginning, if you have young kids or grandchildren, or maybe you're in your beginning years of saving, this is a great way to begin doing that. Paying the taxes now when your income's just a bit lower, where you can keep your tax bill lower, but put the dollars in those accounts now and let them grow tax-free for years, even decades. Because, Spike, I also believe that this is a tool. I don't know when this is going to become unavailable to us.
Right.
But I absolutely see that down the road, because I think the government's going to realize, whoa, a lot of people are using this, and we're not getting what we could be getting in taxes because people are utilizing this tool. I think that might change.
The future math. And that's why the Exchange My Tax Bill is such an incredible tool right now. You can find out for yourself. This is a free report. You can go to exchangemytaxbill.com on your own. You can scan this QR code over here if you want to. You'll put in your inputs. It's literally a couple of minutes. I just did it a few days ago. And you'll get that report right away. And it's going to show you how much you owe in taxes on those accounts. But what Brittany and Jay are saying here is that if you don't do anything about those tax-deferred accounts, which we've been saving into since basically 1980, right? So people, as you have said, have millions of dollars in there. That number will continue to grow.
Yes.
So the Roth conversion is paying some of the taxes right now. Do you have to do it all at once?
We don't want to do it all at once usually, because most people have funded all of their retirement savings into these tax-deferred buckets. So the biggest chunk of their retirement savings are in 401ks that are tax-deferred, or 403bs or IRAs. You want to spread that out over time, because what we want to do is pay lower taxes now, because you'll have to pay taxes on the conversion today, lower taxes now at lower brackets than unknown future tax brackets in the future that will tend to be, my opinion, higher than what they are right now. So we want to make sure that you don't take $500,000 in your 401k and say, let's convert it tomorrow, because that's probably not the smartest move either, because that'll put you well in the highest tax bracket, right, with your earned income. So you want to make sure that you are spreading these out over years, and you want to start early. You want to start in your 60s. You want to start, when you first retire a lot of times, to make sure that
Even
you're
in
putting
your 50s.
before your RMD age, before your required minimum distribution age. Because once you get to that age, the government lets you know, here's how much you have to take out every year, and you can't convert that amount to a Roth. So that is why we want to start early and young on the Roth conversion.
Well, that's a great
ladder.
example of the control piece, right? We have so much more control and so many more options because we start sooner. If you get to the point of 73 or soon to be 75 where you have to take dollars from there, you don't have many choices. I just have to take what the government says I have to take. your tax planning is off the table. It's just tax paying at that point. So that's where beginning early makes such a big difference, because you just have many more options.
And here's a point for our viewers. If your financial advisor isn't asking to see your tax returns, isn't talking to you about your tax returns, you're not even getting half of the picture. Call the phone number down at the bottom of the screen. Let's do your retirement readiness review, including your income and your tax review. And we're going to talk about one more thing about retirement clarity: estate planning and what that means to you. When we get back right after this, call that phone number, set up your time for your retirement readiness review. We'll be back after this message.
Do you know how taxes will impact your financial future? We meet with many families day after day who have saved years for retirement in a 401k, 403b, or an IRA. But they come to realize they don't truly have a financial plan. They have questions like, how do I turn my money into income streams to last me through retirement? How do I know if I'm best positioned for market volatility and inflation concerns? And how do I ensure I'm not overpaying in taxes? This is one of the greatest tax windows in history, and now is the time to take advantage of this discount while you can. The good news is we specialize in areas such as proper portfolio allocation, retirement income strategies, and tax planning. When you meet with us, you'll walk away with solutions, with answers to your questions. You'll walk away with a written, comprehensive financial plan. Reach out today for your complimentary portfolio review and tax analysis.
Welcome back. You are with financial advisors Jay and Brittany Hagee of Allon Planning Partners. I'm Spike Spangle. Retirement clarity. We're going to close out our program today with estate planning. And my clarity question on this is, do I go talk to my financial advisor about estate planning, or isn't that about going to an estate planning attorney? Why is this such a big topic that you both like to talk about?
We talk about this again because it's a coordinated effort. We quarterback these plans for our clients. So we are not the CPA that does your tax return, right? But we help you with long-term tax planning because those implications affect your income plan, right? We do and help you with legacy planning because proper estate planning will ensure that the people that you love actually don't get destroyed by taxes, and it helps you with your tax planning after you're gone or maybe while you're still living. And so we really want to hit home legacy planning today, and we have created, again, another tool that lets you see how close that you are to having a complete legacy plan. And so that is the legacyquiz.com. There's a QR code right there. A few quick question and answers about what maybe documents you have in place or what documents you may need to have in place to just give you clarity on what should I be doing as far as an estate plan is concerned. One of those things are having either a will or a trust. There are differences between the two, and we don't have a lot of time to break those down indefinitely, but you need to know, should I have a will? Should I have a trust? And everybody has a little bit different position on this depending on what assets you hold and things like this. And then power of attorney documents. That's not just for after you're gone. The will and trust really help with that. But power of attorney documents are really while you're still living. So if I am incapacitated, I'm still alive, but I cannot make decisions for myself, Brittany, without a power of attorney, cannot get into some of my financial accounts, even though we're married. She couldn't get into my 401k to help pay the bills because we would not have a power of attorney. So we have to have these documents in place, not only to protect our loved ones when we're gone, but while we're still here. So it's important that you go to this legacyquiz.com and see where you're at in the level of preparedness for a legacy plan.
So even just by being, let's say, the beneficiary between spouses, you're the beneficiary of the 401k, you're the main one. Something happens to you, you get hit by the ice cream truck, you're incapacitated for 6 months, 12 months, but your spouse can't tap into your 401k unless there's legal documentation to do so?
That is the case. Even though the spouse could be listed as the primary beneficiary, the spouse is still living, right? So that the beneficiary only matters if the owner of the account has passed away. So if you are just the beneficiary and not a co-owner of the account, the custodian's going to tell you, sorry, Mrs. Jones, sorry, Mr. Jones, I can't give you information about that account. I cannot give you that distribution you're requesting. You need this document, this power of attorney document, so that if you cannot make financial decisions for yourself, you have named someone responsible to do that. But one thing I want to make sure we kind of wrap up on today when we're talking legacy is it's kind of this three-pronged stool, so to speak. We begin with the legal documents, okay? That's the piece of legacy planning we always talk about. That's the one everybody knows. The wills, the trusts, the healthcare directives, the power of attorneys. Those are integral. You have to have those. But I also want to talk about the financial piece of it, the financial piece, coordinating your assets, the tax strategies, your charitable contributions, and what that looks like, making sure beneficiaries are named on your assets, right? Ensuring that those self-directed IRAs or those accounts go to your beneficiaries and that they're named properly. But then finally, there's a relational component to this whole conversation around legacy. Because money is not the driver of all of this, of all of our lives. It's not just what we're leaving to people in dollars, in resources and assets, but it's also about what we're leaving in people. What's the impact we're actually giving to our children and our grandchildren? What are the values that we're passing down? What are the priorities that our lives are teaching them? And what does that actually look like? Because listen, the grandkids are going to spend your money. They're going to spend it. They're going to use it. But listen, those values, those priorities, those valuable life lessons that you pass on to them, those are priceless. So don't miss that within this legacy conversation, because that's just as important. So it's comprehensive. We're looking at financial, we're looking at the legal documents, and we're looking at the relational component as well. So thelegacyquiz.com, that is the place to begin to really dig into this part of the conversation, to see where you are and how much you have covered when it comes to leaving a legacy for you and what that actually looks like.
It's an absolutely free tool. And by the way, just to mirror your words here, you can get a complimentary copy of the book, The Allon Approach. Purpose-based planning can bear fruit in your financial life.
That's right.
When you call and you set up an appointment with Jay and Brittany Hagee here, we'll also give you a complimentary copy of the book, The Allon Approach. But it all starts with you. Call that phone number right now down on the bottom of the screen. You can set up your time for your retirement readiness review, get a copy of the Allon Approach, and more so, give yourself retirement clarity so you can sleep at night. Thanks for watching. We'll be back next week.